I want to introduce you to my two guests who are going to come on and talk about the new ActiveScene product. First off, I want to welcome Rich McPherson and Doug Phelps to today's Launch and Learn. Rich, you and I have known each other a long time, and we've seen a lot of changes, but no more changes in the category that you're in and that you have managed for many years, and that is projection. The changes in projection are just staggering.
Yeah, I mean, we figured over 30 years we've known each other, which is that's a long time. It's really aging us, to tell you the truth. But oh well, that's life. It will move on. Yeah, in the projector industry, I mean, look back in the beginning, we had CRT projectors that were 200 plus pounds. It produced 100, 120, 150 lumens. Now you have a little projector box that's 3 by 2 by a ½ inch thick. It produces 400. It's insane that you could think, you know, you went from this big behemoth down to this little tiny box. Yeah, that's not the kind of category we're talking about, but it's unreal that it's transformed so much through the years to get to that point, you know?
And 30 years might seem like a long time, but it's really not. I mean, for technology, this has been a very fast-moving industry. And obviously, Avery Dennison has noticed the change in the ability to use small projectors and short throw projectors and laser projection is transformed what you do. Doug, why don't you introduce yourself and introduce your company a little bit?
Sure. My name is Doug Phelps. I'm the business development manager for Avery Dennison on the graphics side. Our company manufactures automotive window films, and we also do a full line of architectural window films. And in that product category is a product called Vela Smart Film, and that's the one we're going to be talking about today.
Yeah, and you're going to understand this inside and out, but there's this awesome opportunity for you to introduce signage into all spaces where there is glass. It's a pretty neat technology. It's really simple. It's just mind-boggling to me that this hasn't been around for many years, but in reality, there's been different companies have tried to do this in different ways, but now with the advent of laser projection, small projectors, and your new Vela technology, we now have the ability to do this. So we have a video that explains this technology that I want to see if we can queue up and run that video really quickly. So can we do that real quickly? It shows how this technology works.
Sharp NEC Display Solutions presents ActiveScene, a solutions-based offering that turns underutilized glass into dynamic signage and privacy. ActiveScene works in conjunction with Vela Film by Avery Dennison. Designed as a two-piece display system, the film placed on glass becomes a projection surface. When the film is in the off state, it becomes opaque that can be used for privacy or rear projection. Turned on, the film becomes transparent, providing unobtrusive views into your location. The complete ActiveScene solution includes a site survey, projector and lens, Vela film and media player, controller, and all necessary hardware and cables. Installation and testing of the system are also included. ActiveScene. Transform everyday glass into your own on-demand digital signage solution.
Obviously, this takes two different technologies working in concert with each other. Doug, first, can you go into the Vela technology and explain what's actually happening there? Because this is just not just sticking something on glass. It's a little bit more complicated than that, but at the same time, it's kind of stupidly simple in a way.
Yeah, pretty much. This is a sandwich panel and that actually contains liquid crystals. And essentially, the short version is that when you have these liquid crystals in their normal state, it's opaque, and the crystals are kind of allowed to move around. Once you apply electricity to those crystals, they align, and that actually allows the film to become transparent. So typically, we are putting up a projector on when it's opaque.
So basically, the film, is it sticky on one side, and you basically stick it to the glass? Is that how this works?
It is. So we have a certified network of installers that install this film, and there is a pressure-sensitive adhesive on one side and a scratch-resistant coating on the other side.
So it's clear when it's in the on state or the off state? So
it's clear when it's in the on state.
Okay, so charging it makes it clear. Removing the charge makes it opaque. And so what's interesting about that's kind of like a Kindle works, like you're not actually using any power until you're turning the page. So in this case, no power is being applied when you're using it as a projection surface from the standpoint of the film. When you turn on the power, then you charge it. Basically, it's going to be clear, so it's just see-through glass. Do you block any of the light at all when it's clear? Is it literally clear, or is there like a percentage, or sort of tell me how that works?
Yeah, typically there's a little bit of a haze to it, and that it's usually 3% or less. So it's what we call transparent. I wouldn't call it 100% clear, but transparent. Okay,
and so one of the examples is in an office space. Actually, Rich, I'd love for you to show that if you could. So, Rich, you actually have an office space there, like a conference room, where you've actually applied this Vela there. Explain that, what we're looking at.
Yeah, so what we're looking at here is actually what we call our Einstein conference room, and this is actually in our lobby of our office. You're going to see me appear in the video real soon because I'm in the actual conference room that we're holding the presentation in. So I wanted to show you what the content on the glass looks like from out front. So I have a camera, mounted out in front of the briefing center, looking right back at the glass. Now this is a unique application because it's corner glass. So it's a total. Now you can see me. I'll wave to everybody so you can see me in the room there quick. It was really quick, but that's just because the timing of the system is set to be more video. But we just decided that, okay, one, we could have privacy. So if we wanted to, we could do it just as an opaque surface. In this case, we don't. We are always branding and marketing in the front glass just because it's our lobby, right? So we really don't use it from the privacy standpoint, but you could just turn the video off and it would be opaque. But that's just one application.
Yeah, and so are you using one projector to project on that right now, or are you using two projectors?
Yeah, actually I'm using one projector, and if you look real quick, it comes back around, I'll keep it up here as we talk. You'll see that there's one projector up on the ceiling almost above me that's pointing into the corner. So I had some, digital correction to do, but I was able to square it up on the glass itself. That way I didn't have too many projectors in the room, right? So you can see it, the bright light up in the corner there. And that's just one projector that is working for this application.
So one of the applications, let's take us back live here. One of the applications is retail signage. So I can see storefronts installing this where they would normally have had a storefront, installing this and using it as an advertising vehicle, especially inside malls. I think we have an image of kind of what that would look like that we can pop up. Here you go. And so then you're using that space and you've turned, a glass surface into a digital signage space. Now, obviously, a lot of retail spaces, Doug, would use this for like a static, have mannequins there wearing the clothes. And in this case, because this is more dynamic, you can literally change the content there on an hourly basis. Tell me about the application for this in a mall, and what has this been like? I mean, I have so many questions. How big can the film be? Like, is this multiple pieces of film in this particular image here? Could you talk about this, Doug?
Sure. So we see a lot of it in retail, and that there's a lot of advantages, especially from a sustainability standpoint, in that retailers don't have to go out and have a bunch of printed material developed every time they have a sale or want to promote something. So this is something that can really be changed very easily with the content management system. The other benefit is that you can really have this designed to show the same messages across multiple stores just by simply changing the CMS system. And so it depends on the size of the film, but typically we can get some very large spans on the size of the glass. It might be multiple pieces, but it's very easily modified for many existing glass frames, and you can get some very large images projected on it.
Yeah, so in this particular image here, this is where the glass is clear, and we can actually go to image number 6. You'll actually see where the content is playing on the image as well, or on the glass itself. And this is all done through projection. So Rich, obviously when it's inside of a mall or dark outside, nighttime, this is easy, right? Because all of a sudden we're just projecting. But what do you think about, I mean, obviously a storefront that has direct light coming in from the sun, that's going to be difficult even with the brightness of today's projectors. But for many applications, even outdoor facing glass walls could use today's laser projectors, couldn't they?
Yeah, that's the number. I mean, for us, the number one thing is really making sure that everybody understands how the application is going to work. So if we look at the installation and really understand where that light's going to hit the screen itself, what we consider the screen or the glass, if we don't have direct sunlight on it, we can get away with using that 10, 20, 30,000 lumen projector. If it's going to have direct sunlight, there's no way we're going to tell a customer that this is going to be a good solution. We don't want them to be upset that it's not performing the way they want it to. I've seen an installation with a similar type of technology in New York City, and it was facing due east and it was in front of a park. You couldn't see anything on that glass. It's not the same solution, it's by any means, but it was just something that somebody was attempting to do. And it's like, you have to know that if there's a lot of light hitting that surface, yeah, we're not going to make this a choice, right? But if it's controlled lighting, if it's inside, if it's, a lot of times if it's facing north, it's probably okay because you're not going to run into that issue. But if it's east-west, forget it. There's parts of the day you're just not going to want to make that happen, facing outside. But the advantage is, depending on the product, the different brightness of the projectors and the different lenses, we can accomplish a lot of things differently and, make things work for the customer.
The first two questions that came in are almost identical, and that is this a self-illuminating product or is it a projection surface? And basically, Doug, what you're doing is you're creating a projection surface. So unlike an LED, which obviously is outside the price point of what you're offering here. I mean, LED is going to make it where you could theoretically see it in nearly direct sunlight, but it's also going to cost you 10 times as much. This is sort of like an in-between option for many applications where you don't have direct sunlight coming in. So any mall retail application, any indoor business application, lobby application like what you're showing there, Rich, is perfect for this. But what's actually happening, Doug, is we're projecting on that surface. So the nice thing is you can choose a projector that's bright enough and the colorimetry that you want, right? Because you could literally use any projector, and I imagine the applications are endless, Doug. You're muted, I think, Doug.
Sorry, not just for retail applications, but if you think of things like museums, things like children's hospitals where you want to have like a nice, display for kids in the hospital, you could really make some really unique functional space out of the glass. So it's definitely a lot of possibilities for this.
So this might be I had this exact same thought. This question comes in from Paul Nolan, and maybe it's an obvious answer, but it's not obvious to me. Is this front projection or rear projection only, or does it work both directions, Rich?
In reality, it's a rear projection system, right? Because the film is going to be placed on the inside of the glass, facing out. We have actually had somebody. We're doing an install now that they're projecting into the conference room. So they have the projector in the hallway projecting into the conference room to do their marketing within that space and not just out into the hallway or into a lobby like we're doing. So, again, it's really most important is it's a rear projection application. Yes, you can see it if you're inside, like if you're in the space like I'm in the conference room, I'm looking out, I can actually see the negative image of what's being presented out front. But that's the case with all rear projection screen material. Yeah,
right? So it's just like any rear projection screen material. You're seeing the reverse of the image, obviously, is one thing. And obviously, Steve Wilhelm asked the question, can any projector be used, including a short throw projector? And is this accommodating your entire projection line, or are you building a specific set of projectors for this application, Rich?
Actually, that's a good question. So we created 5 basic SKUs, and we did that based on the size of the screen that we would anticipate the customers using based on square footage. And that there's multiple things that come into play there. That's both the size, the brightness, how much that space would need as far as controllers that actually are controlling the glass and the film. So we have to kind of look at that, but we really have 5 different SKUs, but we can tailor it to anything they need. So we have regular standard throw lenses, we have ultra short throw lenses. We've demonstrated that at previous shows where we have an ultra short throw projector behind the screen and up in the ceiling, basically pointing down, and it's, the customer seeing that dynamic image out front. So it's really tailored to what they need and what that application is going to be. So if you take, for instance, a museum, a diorama, you don't have a lot of space behind the glass, so you're going to need an ultra short throw. Or if it's in front of a retail location where there's mannequins, you need to put the projector up and above, right? So it's got to be up above the mannequins pointing down to the screen. So you need ultra short throw there. But if it's an application where there's nothing really in that space, we can have the projector farther back as a standard throw lens.
Okay, so now I have some other. There's still a bunch of questions coming in, so I'm going to kind of intersperse my questions with their questions as well.
Right.
Doug, when we were doing when we were talking about it earlier, you sort of alluded to, you didn't call it this, but alluded to a media player or content player. Tell me where that is in the process. Is that because obviously with Sharp NEC products, you can connect their products to anybody's media player. So I'm guessing you can use any front-end media player with this, but it sounds like Avery Dennison has a sort of packaged option here as well.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much we provide the film for the projection system, and then obviously work with companies like Sharp NEC to be able to put together a full package for the installation on the installation side. And so, yeah, that's kind of how we go to market.
Okay, so that means the answer is anyone's media player. What is the minimum lumen output that you can use, Rich, to make this work? Have you taken a look at that?
We looked at, for us, we decided on 6,000 lumens would be the lowest that we should go for any kind
6,000.
6,000.
Okay,
yeah,
6,000. That was. Go ahead.
You could probably go, down to 5,200 in that area, but our packages start at 6,000, just because we know the aspect of what the ambient lighting conditions are going to be.
Yep, that was a question from Paul Brunza. Thank you, Paul. And then another question is, I've been selling and installing rear projection for years using a proper surface like a star glass, the star glass surface, which is a glass surface replacement of glass. How is this different? This question is from Dennis Schlossberg. Doug, are you familiar with the star glass option from Stewart Film Screen?
I'm not familiar with it, so I really can't speak to that. I really just know that, our product offers obviously the privacy portion as well as the projection. And so you're really getting, a 2-for-1 out of this product. And but I'm sorry, I can't comment on the other film.
Gary, can I make a comment on it? Is that all right?
Yeah, please do. Yeah, please.
Yeah, so when we're looking at the star glass, it's a rear projection screen and material, right? So it's designed specifically just for that application. In this case, we're taking an existing piece of glass that's in the customer's facility, and we're placing the Vela film on that glass. So we're not having to replace anything. We're just placing this film on that glass and then turning that glass into that rear projection surface, right? So it's not something that we have to take out and put in new. It's already there. It's underutilized, right? Nobody's using glass. It's just there. So why not transform that into something that's either a privacy scenario or a projection surface that we can do our marketing and promotional material that way. So that's one of the biggest differences, the fact that it's already existing glass. And the other piece to that, again, is it becomes transparent, right? Or semi-transparent, because the other glass, star glass, and any other rear projection material is not designed that way. It's always going to be just an opaque surface that's designed for rear projection projector, right? And that's it, right? In this case, it's a multi-function piece or a solution to the customer.
Yep. And Doug, you just mentioned something interesting, is that when you could theoretically, this is an interesting idea, because something popped in my head when you just said that. Because Doug, what he said was, when you actually have it, use it, when you're typically using it as a projection surfaces, you're creating a privacy surface. I don't know what the percentage is that it's blocking, like it's an opaque surface. What percentage of blocking are you doing there? And I'm going to continue my question, Doug, after you answer that.
Yeah, it's definitely over 97% blocking.
Okay. Okay. So you go from clear to 97% blocking. So Rich, you don't actually have to project on it in that case too. You could use that as a way to take a C-suite conference room and literally outfit the entire thing to be blocking so that you not see what's going on in the meeting. Maybe it's a merger and acquisition meeting, but then at the same time, you have the option to project on it. So I could see applications where you'd put this in where projection wouldn't be the primary application, but then I see all these opportunities where you can still use it for marketing. One of the examples that you had is, image, if you show image 13, Madeline, it shows that glass surface being used just to send content information, like nowadays, like, hey, wear your mask and socially distance and that kind of stuff. So even that kind of content can be used on the fly when you're not trying to use advertising content, because you're not going to send ads to people that are inside your own organization other than, hey, down in the cafeteria today, here's what we're serving. But it could be used for that. So there's an application that's beyond just advertising, right, Rich?
Yeah, I mean, we're not really going to look at it just from the advertising position. Again, we kind of look at it as three states, three models. You have transparency, you have the privacy aspect of it, which is opaque, and then the projection surface, it's opaque, but you just change that state, right? So now you're changing it to a video state. So you could choose any one of those selections that you want at any given time and put whatever material up there. It doesn't have to be branding. It doesn't have to be marketing. It could be utilized for anything. So, talking to an education customer, there was in the video, we had a kind of a 2-story location. You could see up top, they're putting projection up on the glass. That's one of those applications where students are down below. Okay, now we just want to put something up there to advertise, what's happening in the, on the campus or something, and they could put it up there whenever they need to, but at the same time create that privacy scenario. So as you mentioned, if it's in a boardroom, we don't want everybody else walking by seeing what's being talked about in that boardroom, right? It may be very confidential material. We want to have the privacy concern in that aspect.
Yeah, one of the questions that came in, is this a SKU that you can order from both companies? I believe it's being marketed through Sharp NEC, and you provide the finished product, I think, Rich, you said there's 5 different SKU'd options that you have right now.
Correct.
Could you talk about what those 5 options are, ranging from what to what? Are they based on brightness or application or size?
Yeah, it's based on brightness. It's based on size of the actual material. So depending on if it's 96 square foot versus 196 square foot, and then it's based on whether it's a standard base lens or if it's an ultra short throw lens. And then we pull everything into place. So we pull in the cables, all cables that are required, video equipment. So the media player, the CMS, the controller comes from Avery Dennison because that's for their film. So we pack it. What we do is it's kind of a turnkey. So we pull in the Avery Dennison pieces. They work with their vendors that apply the film to the glass, and we're managing all that, but at the same time, we can either be the installer or we can actually hire a standard installer out there to do the video portion of it. But it just depends on how that comes out.
Okay, so if you're watching us, you could be watching us live on the Lavnch platform or on LinkedIn. We're getting a bunch of questions coming in. If you want to ask a question, you can just type your question in the comments area if you're on LinkedIn. Otherwise, put your question to the right of the video window on the Lavnch platform. Okay, so here's a series of questions. Doug, first off, I guess this is some sort of relay that's turning it on and off, or some sort of internal digital switch that's turning it on and off. Can that be controlled by a third-party controller? Because we have companies like Extron and Crestron and AMX and companies like that in our industry. Could you do that through an external controller, RS-232 or however?
Yeah, typically we have a warranty with our controllers. I mean, that typically we found that works best, that we have a full system. So it's Avery Dennison backed warranty with our controllers and our installers. So it really gives the customer confidence that all the components will work together.
Well, when you have let me give you a scenario. When you have a conference room where you have a third-party control system that's controlling the projector, that's controlling the room, the lights in the room, and also the audio, volume up, volume down, and then we also want to turn this surface on. Would we have to have a separate control in the room, or is there some sort of bridge from their controller to your controller? Yeah,
there could be a bridge because the benefit to installing the system is that you can bridge it that way, or you can have it as a separate controller, or it's actually voice activated. So you can use smart home devices like Google and Alexa to actually turn the film on and off.
Oh, okay. That's interesting to note that it's Alexa controllable as well. What voltage is applied to it? How much power does it need?
It only takes about 70 watts, so it's a very low energy consumption to actually run the film.
Okay, that's a great question from Tom Gartland. Is the technology used in the film PDLC, polymer dispersed liquid crystal?
Somebody's been looking at note cards. Yes, exactly. It is PDLC, so it's actually sandwiched in between the layers of tin oxide. So that PDLC is actually what we charge electrically within the film.
And Michael Erickson is asking the question is, what about shadows relative to blocking? I mean, obviously, if you use an ultra short throw and you mount the projector right against the glass, you don't have to worry about that. But just like any projection surface, if you walk in front of the light, you're going to be blocking the surface. But remember, it doesn't turn into a clear surface. You still have that opaque surface. Silly question, but obviously the glass must be clear, correct? Yes. It doesn't have to be clear because you're applying this to glass. So theoretically, it doesn't have to be clear, right, Doug?
Yeah, it doesn't have to be clear, but you're going to get the most benefit if you can use it in a clear situation, a clear glass situation, because then you'll get the privacy as well.
Okay, so you don't, Karos Ramos had asked the question, if it's not clear, do I have to remove the glass and replace it with clear glass? And you're saying no, it's still going to work with the glass. Obviously, if it's not a flat surface, that's going to create a problem. So for example, if it's an etched glass surface, that could present a problem. So I think that's application oriented, if I read you right on that one. Does it require, Tim McDevitt asked, does it require a professional installer to apply, and how easy is it to remove if they choose to change it and move it from one location to the other?
Yeah, so it can be removed. But typically, we go through certified installers. We have basically a 2-day training program for our installers. So they're certified by Avery Dennison that they go out and actually do everything to our specifications, including all the electrical hookups and the window film installation. So that just gives more confidence to the product.
Yeah, and by the way, that's why we're here. This is an opportunity for you to become an integrator for this product. That's the whole reason why we're here. So you want to reach out to Sharp NEC and Avery Dennison. With this partnership, you can go through Sharp NEC to become an integrator for this product. You can go through that training, and that's the whole point that we're here, because through the pandemic and sort of restarting the industry, we have found all these new opportunities for digital signage and wayfinding and people counting and safety measures and broadcasting that information across digital signage networks. Right now, we're, prior to the pandemic, we were sort of, well, I shouldn't say that. I remember 7-8 years ago, Rich, you talking about using projection for digital signage. So you've been a big believer of using projection for digital signage for many years. Now we're seeing the applications for it in a bigger way.
And now we have the ability, much better chance because of the fact that laser, right? So that changed the ball game altogether. But yeah, we talked about it, but in digital signage then applications were limited, because of the lamp prices and lamp hours. But now we don't have that worry. Right. So yeah, this is a great solution in that regard.
Yeah, everything changed with laser projection, obviously. Okay, some other questions. Dennis Schlossberg again asks, how much is this? How much of the range of packages, price-wise, Rich? Because you said there's 5 different packages. You talked about the different sizes. That may not be something you have available to you right now, but if you do, tell us. But also, the second part of this question was, how much approximately does it take to install it? So I think the first question is for you, Rich. Do you have pricing ranges?
Yeah, it's anywhere from now this is MSRP, so anywhere in that $50,000 range up to just over 100. But that's now keep in mind that's everything. That's all the labor.
It's turnkey.
It's a complete turnkey solution at that point. So it's in that general range as far as the MSRP goes. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think, Doug, this is a tough question to answer. How long does it take to install it? I think that depends on how big the install is, where it's being put, how much access you have to it. But do you have some sort of guide you can give us?
Yeah, generally it's a 2-day installation. So we come in on day 1, install the film, come back the next day, basically just test the film before we leave the site. And so usually it's done within 2 days, maybe a day and a half.
And then the controller itself, your controller, Doug, you said it can be controlled through Alexa and voice control, but is there some sort of touch controller option for it as well? And is that capable of being IP controlled? Obviously, it must be IP controllable if you're using Alexa. So could you describe your controller to us a little bit?
Yeah, so the controllers, we have we have basic on-off controllers. We have actually 3 types of controllers, all the way up to a multi-channel controller that hooks into the CMS system. But you can, like you said, you can control it with voice activation, or you can actually use an app. So if you have the app, you can actually turn it on and off using the app as well.
So Rich, one question just came in from Paul Nolan. He wants to know very specifically, is this a product and a technology you want sold by AV integrators? I know the answer to it, but I want him to hear it from you.
Yeah, I mean, we want AV integrators involved in this as well. I mean, we're just going to provide the complete solution to them to then install if they want to. If they're not involved, then we will do that work ourselves.
Yeah, so this could be added on to a system that they're doing, and if they don't feel comfortable doing the install, you're saying you'll offer that as a service to them.
Absolutely. So, I mean, Gary, let's break it down a little bit differently. So,
yeah,
in reality, this is a projector install, right? So, all the AV integration companies out there, they know how to do projector installs. The only difference here that really comes into play is having the Vela film applied to the glass, right? And then having that control system coming back, wires coming back to power the Vela film. Other than that, it's a standard. If they, a media player is a media player, right? So we try to simplify it as much as I can. It's just a standard install. The only difference is we're not necessarily putting it on a control system, an external control system. We may be, right? We may be putting on Extron, Crestron, AMX. It does any one of those, and that'll turn the projector on and off like it always has. There's no difference there. The biggest part there is turning the media player on and then telling the controller, because the media player and the controller are going to work together so that it's going to transition state-wise via the CMS. So once you can turn those on, it just starts running.
Yeah. So so the issue, I think that the direct answer to his question is yes, integrators, but Paul, if you're not comfortable doing the film install on the glass, they can arrange that for you because that's the difference in everything else that you do. So as long as you're comfortable with that, then everything is good. I got a bunch more questions here, so I hope you're okay with me just running through these questions.
No problem.
Let's see here. Is it a single power device no matter the size of the glass, or is it a single point on the glass that power is applied? So that's two separate questions. Does the amount of power, you said 70 watts, does the amount of power change depending on how big it is? And is it one place that you plug in the power, or is there multiple places you can plug in or apply power to it?
Yeah, so the film actually has bus bars that are attached, and depending on the size of the film, we determine where those are placed. So generally, our basic controllers, they'll control, or the multi-channel controllers control up to about 107 square feet of the window film, and so but they're attached to the bus bars electronically or electrically. Perfect.
All right, and then can this be used to project a live TV feed? Of course, that's all based on the media player. As long as you have your media player has a capability of taking live content. Of course, you know, almost every media player has as an option. You can apply live TV, so that'd be a good option for nighttime, where you might have advertising surrounding a live video feed, especially for sporting events and things like that. That would generate a bunch of people coming and looking at it. Let's see. This is a good question. Chuck Bennett just asked, Rich, is there going to be some sort of educational discount for schools?
That's a good question. If there's an educational discount for any of our products, it's going to fall in line with that same scenario, right? So it absolutely will be an education benefit to them from a price standpoint.
Okay, Michael Erickson asks, curved glass. I know you can project because you're actually projecting on corners. We know we can project on curved glass. Doug, is there ability to attach this film to a curved glass?
Yeah, you can actually attach it to the curved glass, but we would want to really take a look at that and do that on a case-by-case basis. Come out and do a site survey to make sure that it would be applicable for that glass.
And one of the questions that came up from Mark Campagna was, do you have installers already in Canada? And I guess the answer is, Rich, you have Sharp NEC integrators in Canada, so anybody who's a Sharp NEC integrator has access to this product as long as they go through the training. So Absolutely. The answer would be talk to your local Sharp NEC integrator partner out there. Let's see, we already answered the question. What's the lifespan under normal day-to-day use? Tom Gartland asks Doug. We know that projectors have a very specific spec on the dissipation of light over time based on the projection lamp technology or the light technology. But Doug, what about you for normal? How many hours are you speccing?
We don't have a general sense of the hours, but we've had this film installed for several years in our offices, and so we project basically the life of the film anywhere between 8 and 10 years.
Okay, and then Rich, I'm not sure you're prepared to answer this question, but do you happen to know, outside North America, is Sharp NEC in Europe and other countries also an integrator or also a partner with Avery for the rest of the world?
Yeah, actually, right now I can kind of answer that. It's still in discussion as to, incorporating the European team and the Asia Pacific teams into the equation. Even the Australian team, they're looking at it as well. So they're all investigating at the same time. We were just the first ones to be able to launch it as a solution, but they're investigating this as a solution from a worldwide standpoint. Yes.
So eventually we'll probably see it. And Veronica Russell just asked the question, what's the maximum resolution? You're not having to match resolution. You're just creating a projection surface with the film. So I guess the resolution would only be limited by the resolution of the projection system that you decided to use. Yep.
Correct. And we could edge blend it. If we wanted to do edge blending, we could do that as well. So if it was that much larger, we could, use multiple controllers. We could then edge blend the system and have, a much larger image across the concourse, for instance. It all depends on what that application is going to need. Okay.
Paul Nolan asked a question that I think you kind of answered, Doug, but maybe you can give me a direct answer to this. What is the maximum size of a single sheet where you're not having to put multiple sheets together?
Typically, I mean, we can run, again, depending on the spec of the glass, or the size of the glass, but typically our panels are about 48 inches wide, and then we can run a length of up to, I don't know, maybe 8 to 10 feet or so.
Okay.
And it just depends on where we can put, how many bus bars we can actually attach to it. Because, the last thing you want to do is create this big sheet of Vela film and not have enough power to go to it. So that we have to do that on a site survey and take a look at the glass.
Have you had anybody ask for the outside of the glass to be touch or mimic touch, so that you have the film on the inside, you're projecting, be able to walk up to the glass and do touch? Obviously, that's going to be more gesture based, but have you had any applications for that, and do you have any partnerships with that? Either one of you.
I know, Rich. I know. I think we've had a little bit of experience with that, but we certainly don't have any partnerships there. I don't know if you've.
Yeah, and we haven't created any partnerships yet, Gary. It's just one of those. This is a brand new product. We didn't get look at that avenue as of yet, but we are going to investigate that potential. Yeah, because that way, if they're outside, they can walk up to it and manipulate images. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think there's going to be an application for that. Somebody's in the retail world, somebody's going to ask for that. Mario Rivera asked the question, does the film and media player enough, or do you have to have a projector? You actually don't need a media player. You just need the film. So if you just want to use it as a privacy surface, you just can turn on and off the film. You don't need the media player to do that, nor do you need the projection system to do that.
Correct.
Janet McLean asked the question, do you recommend specific, she's saying offline, if you can recommend specific installers in her area. So we'll connect you with her so you can.
Okay.
She's specifically in the Boston area, so I'll let you contact her directly. Let's see here. Is it rated for 24/7 use? I mean, I think that would be more of a projection issue.
Correct.
For the 24/7 question more than the film, because the film just is not dynamic. So that's depending on which projector you select.
Right, and for us as Sharp NEC, we would recommend a DLP based engine if that was the case for a 24/7 application, just because of the longevity of the material itself. So yeah, we have the technologies either way, whether it's LCD or DLP. So we would definitely make sure that they got the right product for that application.
Now, unless I misunderstood you, Dennis Schlossberg's next question is already answered. The brightness and contrast spec for it, that's all based on the projector, because I believe what you answered, Doug, is you're only losing 3% of the light output through the film. Did I get that right?
Right. That's right.
So then the brightness and contrast spec would only be based on the projector. So certainly brightness, you're going to get 97% through. Contrast is going to be slightly affected because we're not dealing with a completely white surface. But do you know if it narrows the contrast ratio much, Rich, or do you have a range there?
Well, I think the other avenue to that, Gary, is going to be where I'm at right now in the conference room, I have the lights on all the way. So if I turn them down out front, that's going to be a little bit more brilliant. You know what I mean? Because I'm not going to get that extra wash from the internal lights to the room. So that's just a dynamic thing from that perspective. We haven't measured it because there's variables. I'd have to sit here and measure each different light setting of the room, but that's going to play a role. But most important is, even with all the lights on out in the lobby, I mean, as you can see, I'm just going to switch over to that, but you can see that it's still brilliant. I mean, my camera is, you can see how it's jumping off the screen, and that's with all the lights on in the room behind the film. So it would wash out a little bit from a contrast ratio to bring the blacks up a little bit, but it's not that bad. If I turn the lights off, you'd probably see a difference. I mean, I could do that if you want. So,
and there's no issue. Patrick Glacken asked the question, Doug, to clarify, since the film is only transparent when powered, are there issues with the film being powered for extended periods of time? And you already answered the question with life expectancy, 8 to 10 years. So I'm guessing the answer is no.
Right. The answer is no. Yeah.
What about the contrast with the lighting in the room? I mean, he's actually showing you the difference there by looking at the screen live right now. You're able to see the difference between the lights on and the lights off. What's the thickness of the Vela surface itself? What's the thickness rating?
Yeah, so the thickness of the film is about 18 mil. 18 mil, and that's for all the layers, including the scratch-resistant layer. So, top to bottom, it's about 18 mil.
Somebody knows something more than me, but apparently Kent State in Ohio developed a PDLC technology 5 years ago called Marvin Windows. Is this similar to that? Are you familiar with that technology? I don't know anything about that, so I thought I'd ask you.
I'm not familiar with that, but PDLC has been around for a little bit. I'd say in the last probably 4 years, 5 years or so. So it would make sense.
Yeah, and Rich, we're now still seeing your other camera. If you want to switch back.
Yeah, I did that on purpose, Gary, because I wanted to get to hopefully get to a different little point on it. I'll make mention so we can go back to me personally. If everybody looks at this glass as they're seeing it, there's two pieces of glass in the corner. We're showing it as one image, and one thing that we haven't talked about yet is the fact that we can control them separately. So you can have an image that's 48 inches wide, 8 feet tall. 48 inches wide, 8 feet tall next to it. You can control them dynamically depending on the content you want to present. It could be one image or it could be 3 separate images, however you wanted to maneuver it. You could do that. I just wanted to have that up there so people could recognize. Right now we have 2 different channels we're using, but we're turning them on at the same time because the content's designed that way. But you can create the content to be whatever you want it to be in that sense.
Yeah, and so that's all based on the media player, obviously, your ability to break up the content in the media player one way. And the other way is you could literally use 2 different projectors. You could project on one piece of glass with one projector and one with a separate. So you could actually use 2 different media players with 2 different projection systems. You can even, with laser projection, turn the projection systems vertically so that you're able to fill use the max amount of light output from the projector and surface area resolution.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Yeah. So this has been a great session. I've been excited to be able to introduce this to the market. We've had a tremendous number of questions. We had over 30 questions come in asked about this. That means there's obvious and great interest here in this technology. You've got a hit on your hands. I'll give you a report of all these individuals that ask questions so you can follow up with them and make sure that you answer the questions individually. Doug, I want to thank you for your time. I know we had some audio issues on your side, but it worked out really well, and I appreciate your time and attendance for this, your attention with this. And Rich, thank you very much, as always, to Sharp NEC for not only supporting Lavnch, but also supporting the industry with everything that you do.
Oh, our pleasure, Gary. Thanks for having us. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, and thanks for being on this episode of our Lavnch and Learn series with Sharp NEC, introducing ActiveScene to you. And hey, this is a kind of product that is new and differentiates you. It's an opportunity for you to do something different for your customers. If you're selling to retail, you're selling to corporate C-suite, or you're selling to people who are doing facilities managers who are in charge of lobby displays, this is a great option. It's a lot less expensive than an LED, and it gives you some additional flexibility and way that you can use projectors. I hope you check it out. You can learn more at Sharp NEC's website, sharpnecdisplay.com. And of course, thank you very much for joining us today. This is Gary Kayye from rAVe, and I want to send you out with a thank you very much. And thanks, Rich, and thanks, Doug.
Thank you.
Thank you.